Welcome to the Long Live Alternative Parties podcast. Stay friends. We have another exciting guest on our podcast. We are inviting a party that we love to invite around here, the Libertarian Party. We've invited them a lot lately, especially. So we're excited to hear their message. We got an individual from the Kansas Libertarian Party. His name is John Hauer, and he's ready for Congress. So welcome to the podcast, John.
Hey, thanks, Andrew. Thanks for having me on. I appreciate it.
We're glad to have you, John. If we could get started by you kindly giving us an introduction to yourself, a brief biographical sketch.
Okay, so I'm John, currently a delivery truck driver, which I'm on the road right now, actually, with my faithful mutt, Star Fox. He's a good boy, and he's my buddy. We go everywhere together. Other than that, I like to raise birds, so I got ducks and I have chickens. And I have more eggs than I know what to do with sometimes, but I eat a lot of eggs, so it works out.
Okay.
I like anything outdoors, I'm into it, like camping, hiking, all that kind of stuff, too.
Oh, wow. So you're saying that you're a truck driver, yet you make the eggs and you raise those animals. So how does that work if you're on the road?
I get back. I'm a delivery driver, so I always start and end in Topeka, which is nice.
Oh, okay. So it's not something that's on the highways, it's in the cities. In the city
It's all within the state of Kansas.
Oh, I get you. So during the day you may be down the highway, yet every day you come home to the same place.
Yes. Some days are real long, but always home at night, which is awesome.
Oh, yeah, that's great. I've known truck drivers and they say that sometimes it's terrible to how long they have to be away from their family, so it's good that you don't have to deal with that.
Yeah, I don't think I'd be able to have all those animals if I was over the road trucking. That's for sure.
Yes. So, what led you to the Libertarian Party?
How did I kind of initially jump into it?
Yes.
Well, it was back in the good old COVID days. I was always kind of an independent. A lot of times I did vote Libertarian, or Republican, or I didn't really vote Democrat very much. I was more of a right-leaning kind of voter, but I was always an independent. I was actually on a trip to go snowboarding with my brother and his friend, and we were listening to a podcast, actually, and kind of talking about the Libertarian Party and their stance on, the government's overreach when it came to COVID. And I was like, wow, it just spoke to me. So I think it was right after that weekend when I got home from snowboarding, sore as all get out, but I went online and I changed my registration to the Libertarian Party because they had impressed me that much.
Oh, wow. So Kansas has a registration by party.
Yes. Yep.
Okay. Yeah, some states don't. So, do you like that? Do you think that's a good thing, or do you want to be like the states that don't have it?
Oh, it's such a good thing. It's such easier ballot access for us. Like, for example, my run for Congress, all I had to do was get nominated at our convention, which basically, if you want to run, unless you're going to be a bad face, for the franchise kind of thing, they are going to nominate you and they are going to let you run. So, and then the party kind of takes on, submitting your name to the Secretary of State. You do have to pay a fee, but it's so much easier than having to go out and collect all those signatures like some states have to do.
Yes, we hear a lot about that in this podcast of what the candidates have to do. So whenever they don't have to do it, they rejoice, like you are.
Definitely. 100%.
So how about your career? How does that influence your politics?
My career?
Yes.
I would say that actually it has influenced my politics. I mean, everything is kind of a amalgamation. Everything kind of influences everything else.
Sure.
I joined the military when I was 19. That definitely had a big effect on my politics because I kind of got to see the evils of war firsthand. all just the needless spending, first of all, like all the crazy stuff they were buying and just sending, just the crazy amount of spending going on. And then the fact that nobody from Iraq, I was in Iraq, nobody there, like from the country, wanted us there. And we weren't doing really anything good for the country. So we were all just like, why are we even here? And I mean, some people found purpose in being over there, but most of us did not. And just kind of seeing the pointlessness of war, the destruction, the blown up houses, all that stuff, like it was just sad and made me really against war.
Oh, wow. Well, it sounds like a profound experience.
Oh, and friends dying. I mean, that'll really turn your stomach against war too,
Oh, yeah. Okay, so how about for this campaign? What are the main issues that you're bringing to the campaign, and how are you addressing it from a libertarian perspective?
Well, that's a good point. I think one of my big issues that I vote on is being anti-war. And Libertarian Party is also very anti-war. In fact, we got the non-aggression principle that you have to or should sign when you renew your membership every year. So it's a very, very anti-war party, and so I kind of fit right in with that. Some of the other major issues that are being talked about, as far as like at the different debates and forums and things, inflation and the cost of goods is definitely up there, which, once again, it's great being a libertarian when it comes to that, because we're all about spending less and printing less money, which is what got us into this terrible inflation in the first place. So, as a libertarian, I can kind of say, I told you so. I mean, not that I want to have to say that, but we tend to have pretty good fiscal and economic policies in our party. So that's a good one too.
Oh, yes. So sometimes our guests who are running for office, they don't feel like talking about their opponents, and other guests aren't opposed to doing that. So would you care to address your opponents and describe them for our audience, or is that something you're not comfortable doing?
I could a little bit. I mean, I'm not going to badmouth anybody, though. One of my opponents, the Democrat, she is Nancy Boyda. I've actually met her several times on the campaign trail, and I'm glad I'm not her enemy, because she tends to go on the offensive, if you know what I mean,
sure.
against the Republican. So I'm glad I'm not her enemy. She actually, we actually get along pretty well. She's kind of country soul like me. Like, heats her house with wood and has chickens and all that kind of stuff. So she's got a pretty cool life. And something else I respect about her is that, big mainstream candidates, the Democrats, Republicans, get lots of basically bribes. I mean, they're not bribes, but they kind of are, from like lobbyists and special interest groups. Like, you're supposed to fill out how you're going to vote, and then they send your campaign money. And what she's been doing is throwing those in the trash, which I really respect that.
Wow. You don't hear that too much from a Democrat.
You do not. Actually shocked me when she told me that, and I was like, hey, that's pretty cool of you.
Yeah.
So yeah, I have a lot of respect for her, but I'm just glad I'm not her enemy, because she definitely goes on the offensive.
I'm sorry, and the other individual or two?
The other individual I'm running against is a Republican, Derek Schmidt. I kind of have he works in Topeka. I believe he works with the Attorney General. But one of my old coworkers, his dad worked with Derek Schmidt. So I didn't know him before, but I knew of him. And I don't know, he's kind of just a longtime Republican, has always worked for the party in various things and ran for office and stuff like that. I haven't talked to him quite as much as I have Nancy.
Okay.
I assume we mesh a lot as far as kind of moral values went. But, yeah, I don't know him quite as well. I've only seen him a couple times.
Okay. Does the Green Party have a candidate?
Not for this race, no.
Okay,
Just
so
us
no
three.
other alternative parties besides the Libertarian Party?
Correct. Just the three of us.
Okay, so yeah, it's good that you're running them because we need that voice, so that's great. So how are you reaching the voters in this campaign? Are you knocking on doors, or are you going to farmers markets or other stuff like people talk about for campaigns? Are you doing social media? How are you reaching the voters?
Well, when I initially started this run, I had no idea what I was doing. I mean, none whatsoever. The first thing I did was I had my friend build me a website, and best decision I made, because this guy's an artist, Xavier Strong, if anybody needs artwork done. But he's an artist, and he's really good at social media and really good at just how things look in general, you know, the aesthetics of things. So he came over, he took all my pictures, he built the website, we made it real simple, and ever since then I've just been getting so many people reaching out to me saying, hey, we noticed your website, and, you know, like, can I come on for this podcast, or do you want to come to a candidate forum, or it's really opened up a lot of doors, so I'm definitely appreciative of that. And then, yeah, I've just been talking to people as I see them. For my job, I travel all over the state, so when I'm at my stops, if I know they're in my district, I'm like, hey, guys, have a good day, and by the way, if you're a voter, vote for me.
Oh, wow.
And then also, yeah, like at the farmer's market, I actually just was there a couple weekends ago, and, you know, bought some chicken and was like, hey, vote for me. So, yeah, and then I've also been invited to several different forums and been interviewed by a few different newspapers, so there's been a lot of that too.
Okay, that sounds good. Are you running this campaign by yourself, or do you have a team supporting you?
My dog is my team, man. It's me and him.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah.
So your dog doesn't like the regulations that the government imposes on pets?
No, my dog is all about freedom. He doesn't even like
good.
leashes.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah.
That's good. Okay, that sounds good. So when you're talking to the people in your district that are voters, what are they saying to you? What are their concerns?
Definitely taxes. That's one of everybody's big concerns now, and I definitely feel that. So I mean, every time I look at my paycheck, I just want to cry because of all the federal income tax that comes out of it. Say taxes. A big one that people really like to argue with me about, I guess, is my stance on abortion. I am pro-life, so not all libertarians are. In fact, quite a few aren't.
True.
So a lot of people like to basically argue with me about that, you know. My first I don't like to argue about this because it's a moral issue and nobody's mind has ever been changed by just arguing about it. You know what I mean? It's one of those issues that only a big life experience, like having a child or something like that, will change your mind on. Like, nobody's mind has ever been changed in either direction by arguing about abortion. So I hate arguing about it, but honestly, that's probably the one that people argue with me the most about, basically trying to change my mind, and I'm like, I'm just not going to change my mind on this, and neither are you, so let's stop.
That is good that you're willing to have that diversity within the Libertarian Party, so I appreciate that not every Libertarian has to believe exactly the same thing on exactly every issue, so that's good.
Definitely. Yep, we are all over the place on a lot of things.
So in regards to policy, what do you think is a good policy for the pro-life position? Did you like that they overturned it at the Supreme Court? Do you think it should be with the states, or do you think it should have been how do you think it should be for the abortion policy?
Well, I'm 100% pro-life, so I believe that life personhood, begins at conception. Basically, that's when I'm Catholic, traditional Catholic, and I believe that's when you get your soul and become a full person. So for me, any sort of abortion is akin to murder because it's a full person.
All right.
I know that a lot of people don't feel that way, and there's a different trimester argument and things like that.
Yeah.
But to me, it's not really a question of should the states do it, should the federal government do it, should we legalize it, should we ban it? To me, it's a question of that's a full person, and we need to treat unborn babies like people.
Okay. Okay, so I get you. Okay, so since you mentioned that you're Catholic, that's also something else I wanted to ask you about, another issue, that the Catholic Church is against the death penalty, right?
The Catholic Church actually is not against the death penalty.
Oh, they're not. Okay.
I'm not sure what the current Pope says about it, but he says all sorts of whack things, so traditional Catholics don't really listen to him anyway.
Oh, okay, interesting. So how about you? What do you think about the death penalty?
It's not my big issue. A lot of libertarians are super against it, like it's their issue. It's not my pet issue. I can see why we're against it, though, because we don't believe that the state gets it right more often than not. And for a state that gets as much wrong as our federal government and our government in general does, if they're going to be getting stuff wrong, they better not be playing fast and loose with the lives of people. So that's why I'm against it. It's just because there's just no way of saying that the state is 100% right in killing somebody. I mean, there's just no way. And, I mean, once again, being Catholic, even though the religion part doesn't necessarily play into this one, once again, I don't think it's the government's job to be taking away life. That's up to God.
Oh, sure, yeah. You mentioned you referred to yourself as a traditional Catholic, and so you have some criticism of the current Pope. So how do you define a traditional Catholic versus a non-traditional Catholic?
So, back in, I forget what year it was, but the Second Vatican Council, it was a big council that the church had, and basically they changed a lot of, they didn't necessarily change a lot of doctrine, but they opened up a lot of things to interpretation. They opened up a lot of loopholes, and basically, rather than having a hard, fast dogma, everything kind of became up to interpretation, including like the Mass and everything like that. So a traditional Catholic would be, like me, is one who would hold to the old Mass, so like, basically like the Mass in Latin, or praying at home, something like that. And we either have a general disregard for the newer version of the church, if you want to call it that, like the hierarchy, the bishops, the Pope. They tend not to look very fondly on traditional Catholics because we're almost like a opposing sect of Catholicism, if you want to call it that. But basically what traditional Catholics do is kind of keep that old Catholic faith and the old Latin Mass strong.
Okay. So are you able to find a church in your area that does the traditional Latin Mass?
Definitely. Yep, there's a big one in St. Mary's. And if you look, I mean, they're all over the country. I grew up going to one up in Green Bay. If there's a website, I forget the name of the website, but you can look, and I mean, every state pretty much has spots you can go. Some of them are real tiny. Some of them are big churches. You never know.
Okay.
But
so all
it's out
the country.
there.
Okay.
Yep, it's out there.
Interesting. So with Vatican II, what I understood was they allowed the congregation to do the Mass in the vernacular, and they didn't have to do the Latin Mass. So the church right now is okay if you do it in Latin Mass. It just doesn't require it, right?
I believe that is their stance. I'm not 100% sure. I believe it's saying the old Mass is frowned upon, but I can't be 100% on that.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Yep.
Interesting. So since you're Catholic, I also trust that you believe in freedom of religion for all, right?
I do. I don't think it's something that should be forced by the state. Obviously, our state that we have, the United States of America, is not, it's not like religiously good or bad at the moment, but I mean, it can be used for good or ill depending on who is running it. So I believe that the best chance we have is to allow complete freedom in most things. I think that the state being allowed to mess with religion and things like that, given the current state that we have, would lead only to, discrimination and persecution and, all that tyranny kind of stuff that we don't want to see.
Oh, sure. Sure. So how can our audience support you in your campaign?
Well, you can go to my website, Hauer, Hauer for Congress.com,
All right.
and there are different links on there, and at the very bottom of the page, different social media sites. And basically what you'll do by clicking on that link is share my website. So it's basically just putting my website out there on all the social medias so that other people can see it, see my name, get some name recognition, and just kind of know what I stand for.
Okay. That sounds good. So Can you please tell us the website address again?
Hauer, Hauer, for, F-O-R, Congress, regular Congress.com.
Wow, that's a very straightforward address that doesn't confuse anybody, so that's great.
Nice, yep.
All right. Well, we thank you for coming on the podcast today and talking about your campaign. We appreciate hearing about all you've been doing and your views.
Yeah, it was fun, man. I enjoyed it.
Well, I wish you all the best in your campaign. The campaign season is almost over. We're doing this in late October, so we wish you the best in that and also everything else you do in your personal and professional life.
Thank you. You too, man. Have fun down there in Austin.
All right, I shall. So take care and all the best.
All right, thank you.
Bye.
Bye.